Navigation assistance. In recent years, drivers, cyclists, hikers, and many other people have come to depend on satellite navigation, often shortened to sat-nav. Sat-nav acts like an electronic map to help people find their way. Like many other electronic devices, sat-nav receivers have become smaller, more powerful, and more useful. They all depend on the Global Positioning System, GPS, operated by the U.S. Air Force. See page 22. Russia, China, and the European Union are also working on new satellite systems. GPS receivers. Personal navigation assistants, or PNAs, can be as small as a cell phone. Their basic function is to give users their location, which is shown as a position of latitude and longitude. These measurements tell us positions on Earth's surface. See coordinates opposite. But today, they are much more user-friendly. They show maps so that you can see exactly where you are. These hikers are using a GPS receiver to find their way. The device can show a map or give a list of instructions. Coordinates. Positions of latitude and longitude are called coordinates. For example, the Empire State Building in New York is located at 40 degrees, 44 minutes, 54.36 seconds north, 73 degrees, 59 minutes, 8.36 seconds west. The first number is the latitude, given in degrees, minutes, and seconds north. The second is the longitude, in degrees west. The point where these coordinates cross is the precise location. On the other side of the world, Australia's Sydney Opera House is at 33 degrees, 51 minutes, 25 seconds south, 151 degrees, 12 minutes, 55 seconds east. Use an atlas or a map to find out which famous landmarks are at A. 48 degrees, 85 minutes, 83 seconds north, 2 degrees, 29 minutes, 45 seconds east. B. 29 degrees, 58 minutes, 45 seconds north, 31 degrees, 8 minutes, 4 seconds east. C. 27 degrees, 10 minutes, 27 seconds north, 78 degrees, 2 minutes, 32 seconds east. Answers are on page 46. Desert rescue. In January 2009, a Romanian tourist got lost for 6 days in the central Australian desert. Luckily, he had a cell phone and a handheld GPS device with him. He called his family in Romania and gave them his exact position from the GPS. They called relatives in Melbourne, Australia, who contacted the police. He was found and rescued. Sat-nav systems can also give spoken instructions. This is especially useful for drivers. Portable systems can be taken out of the car and used anywhere. Global Positioning System. The Global Positioning System, GPS, uses space satellites in orbit around Earth. The U.S. Air Force operates the 30 or so satellites that are currently working. 24 are enough to give complete coverage of the planet. A GPS receiver on Earth needs information from at least 3 satellites to figure out its position. The geometry of GPS. GPS works by geometry. That means if you know how far you are from 3 other places, you can figure out where you are. In GPS, the 3 other places are satellites in space. Distance and the speed of light. Radio waves travel at the speed that light travels. That's about 300,000 kilometers, 186,000 miles per second. A GPS receiver figures out where a transmitting satellite is by timing how long its radio signal took to arrive. Its computer does a lot of complicated math. The U.S. Space Agency, NASA, launches rockets to carry satellites into space. The satellites send GPS information back to Earth. How GPS works. Imagine you get lost in an unfamiliar country. First, you discover that you are 30 kilometers, 19 miles, from Village A. That means you could be anywhere on this circle, because every point on the circle is 30 kilometers from the center. Village A, 30 kilometers, 19 miles. You could be anywhere on the circle. Then you learn that you are 50 kilometers, 31 miles, from town B. This means you must be at one of the 2 points where the second circle meets the first. These are the only 2 spots that are 30 kilometers, 19 miles, from A, and 50 kilometers, 31 miles, from B. Village A, Town B, 50 kilometers, 31 miles. You could be here or here. Third, you find out that you are 75 kilometers, 47 miles, from City C. Now you know exactly where you are. You are at the point where all 3 circles cross each other. You are here. Village A, Town B, City C, 75 kilometers, 47 miles. GPS works with spheres in 3 dimensions in space, instead of circles in 2 dimensions on paper. This makes the calculations more complicated, but the idea is the same. Calculators. Pocket calculators first became available in the 1970s. They changed many people's way of working. For the first time, people could do complex arithmetic quickly and accurately. They could also take their calculator around with them. Early calculators were expensive. In 1974, an early model cost around $175, which is the equivalent of around $750 today. A similar model today would cost less than $10. Even so, it would be more powerful than the early calculators were. Who did that? Adding and subtracting. A French inventor named Louis Tronchet developed a handheld mechanical calculator in 1889. His arithmograph worked by moving rows of numbers with a metal pointer. Millions of these devices were sold. In 1920, a German company started producing a machine called an addiator. This did subtraction as well as addition. Later versions were still being produced in the 1980s. More than 100,000 addiators were sold in its first year. What else can you calculate? You can buy low-cost calculators that do lots of other things. Some calculators are also spell checkers, crossword puzzle solvers, and measurement converters. For example, they can quickly change feet into meters or degrees Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius. You can also buy handheld machines that include a dictionary, an encyclopedia, a thesaurus, or a translator. One of these small machines can translate more than 200,000 words into 6 different languages. Bright idea. Solar cells. You may have seen calculators with a solar panel at the top. The panel contains several solar cells. These are cells that power the device. The cells are photovoltaic. Photovoltaic cells change sunlight into electricity. They are also used in solar chargers, which power up rechargeable batteries in other handheld devices. A simple calculator like this can do all sorts of sums. It also has a memory, which makes it much easier to do big calculations. Solar panel. Games. The first computer games appeared in the 1970s. They had special cases called cartridges with computer disks in them. But these could do nothing else. Manufacturers soon realized that people wanted to play video games on the move. This led to handheld video game consoles, which were particularly popular with young people. At first, the games were inserted on chunky cartridges. Today, they use slim game cards. A console called Wii has a handheld remote control for playing games on a separate screen. Video game consoles are small and easy to carry. NDS and PSP. Scientists, engineers, and designers sometimes come up with different ideas on how to make things easy or interesting for the gadget user. This happened with games machines. The 2 best-selling portable consoles came from Japan in 2004. The Nintendo DS has a dual screen, DS. The upper screen is the game monitor, and the lower is a touch screen for entering commands. Sony's PlayStation Portable, PSP, has a single viewing screen with playing buttons to the right and left. Walkthroughs. Walkthroughs can teach you how to complete and win video games. They are put together by experienced game players. Sometimes they are produced in the form of facts, frequently asked questions. But for complicated games, they take or walk you through the game. These walkthroughs are sometimes called cheats. It is up to you to decide whether it is cheating if you use them. From Microvision to Game Boy. The first handheld game console was Microvision, produced in 1979. It had cartridges for different games, but not very many. It was not a success. It was followed 10 years later by a hugely successful console, the Game Boy. It was just right for its time, with the latest games and a good, simple design. Nearly 119 million Game Boys were sold. The follow-up, Game Boy Advance, has sold another 81 million. In this game, players try to help alien creatures and robots save the galaxy from evil forces.